episode of the Capcom Podcast. I'm Cameron.
And I'm Lieutenant Aldo Spanks.
I mean, Jack, it is the Jack and Cameron show once again.
Back at it.
Always a classic.
Back at it.
It's
For
always
another
a fun
banger.
time.
For another banger.
You know what? We're really good at doing two-person classic cult, like cult classics that are like just amazing classics in general movies. You know what I mean? It's like
the real question is this movie better than Independence Day? We'll have to find out.
Okay. I would answer yes.
Not sure. I'm not sold.
You're not sure? I'm sorry. We will agree to disagree on that one. But first off, how you doing? You doing all right?
We're doing good. We are busy, but busy is good, I guess. Unless you don't want to be busy, in which case it's bad. So
why don't you want to be busy?
Yeah. You know.
But busy is good. You know who else was busy?
Colonel Hans Lando.
I mean, he's also very, very busy, but the bastards are also busy.
The bastards stay busy.
They got to pay their debt. They got to pay their debt to Lieutenant Rain.
Right. That's for every good Jew hunter, there's a better Nazi hunter. I think that's the old adage.
Is that how that works?
I heard someone say that.
I think it was
Chamberlain. No, I think it was Chamberlain who said that.
Is that an actual quote?
No, it's not.
Okay. You know what? You almost convinced me there. You almost convinced me. I mean, look, today we're talking about what I would presume as one of the most classic. Could you call it classic early 2000s movies? Could you say that?
Yeah, I mean, at this point it feels, like that. A couple years ago it still kind of seemed fresh, but I still figure like it's I think it's closer to like 2010, probably like 2008 or 2009.
It's 2009, I think, is the release.
Yeah, so I'll call it an early 2000s banger.
Yeah.
Early 2000s banger, one of Tarantino's best.
I would argue Tarantino's best.
I would make that argument as well. I think I have it. I'll let our audience stew on it for a little bit, and we can produce our rankings later. But it's certainly up there. It's certainly up there.
We can talk about why later, and why I think because I think Inglorious Bastards is kind of the height of Tarantino's career, and then it kind of plateaus for Django, and then it kind of starts to go down again. Has to do with the death of Sally Menke, who was the editor. I don't know if you know about this. This is the last movie they worked on together. This is the last movie they worked on together, and then she died in a freak hiking accident a couple months later.
I did not know that.
And so I don't know if you noticed how newer Tarantino films seem a little bit longer and a little more winded and kind of meander from time to time. People cite that's because Tarantino, that Quentin and Sally both kind of had a weird symbiotic relationship where they kind of helped each other out, and where she really pulled in his reins to make movies a little bit more concise.
Right. Yeah, and I see what you're if you're looking at Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, there's certainly some scenes that maybe could have been cut, although I do love that movie as well. But there's not really a lot of wasted time in Inglorious Bastards. Every scene has a purpose. Every scene leads you to the next. And there's really nothing that you can cut from this film.
Yeah. But for those that don't know, Jack, tell us, what is Inglorious Bastards about?
Inglorious Bastards it's kind of two stories that intertwine. We start off meeting Christoph Waltz's character, Colonel Hans Landa. He works for the SS, and his job is he's the Jew hunter, essentially. So the movie opens, and that's kind of the first characters that we're introduced to is this Jew hunter, and one of his prey escapes. So this isn't a guy who takes kindly to someone escaping from him. And then on the other side of the coin, we follow Brad Pitt and his bastards, which is where the name comes from, and they are Nazi hunters. So while the Nazis are out hunting Jews, we have this other group of American soldiers hunting the Nazis. And it kind of follows those two stories, and it all comes to a head. It's a story of revenge, and it's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, you got Shoshana and her kind of story where Lando's trying to, kind of chase that, while the bastards, the group of Jewish, like a special teams made up of only Jewish soldiers are hunting, basically going behind enemy lines, taking all the shots, but kind of being these like this like assassin group, like just like killing as many Jews, taking no prisoners, and just kind of moving through, and the kind of the plan to destroy the Nazis, and kind of how that I guess kind of comes a crashing down all together in one big pile of ash, for lack of a better word. Yeah. I mean, I love this movie. It's my favorite Tarantino film. It's one of my favorite films of all time. It's in my top 10 for sure. Um I think, Christoph Waltz gives a tremendous performance in this film.
One of the best. One of the best.
And but I feel like there's so many good actors in this film. The writing is just superb. Although I do have some gripes with it now watching it again. I think the German isn't as good as I remember it being. It feels very like basic to me. But and then also, you have all these famous German actors in it that come in and give these tremendous performances.
I mean, yeah, Daniel Bruhl's is he German?
Yeah,
he's German, fantastic. Yes. He's great in everything he does.
He's great, but I think this was his first like Hollywood movie. That was
he crushes it just because of almost like the dichotomy of his character, where he wants to be this nice, this polished. He's like, oh, I don't want to be thought of as a soldier. He's very, timid and shy about it until he's not. And the way his character kind of switches from being this nice guy trying to court this woman. Until eventually you really see who he truly is, which is really nice. And then another thing that I love about this movie, and it's probably my favorite thing, is how it switches tones so quickly. The tension scenes with Shoshana and Hans Lando, because there's always in the back of your mind, like, he knows, he has to know, and so the tension in those scenes is so powerful. And then it switches over to the bastards, and you kind of get a little bit of a comic relief. And it's still serious subject matter, but it's just handled so differently. And then you're back to Shoshana, and it's just this really serious, really stressful, really tense situations. And the way that they flip back and forth, it just keeps you emotionally on your toes the entire time.
The other thing that why I think this is one of my favorites for Tarantino is also the specificity of every single line, every single movement, every single thing that happened in this film. It feels so like you were talking about that switch, and I think that pacing kind of helps bring to light all of the way that it just feels like this is Tarantino's world and everyone else is just playing with it in it kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that really brings out so much in this film, because you have your highlights, of course, in the acting, department. But like besides that, the only other highlight is just the writing and how everything just feels like comes exactly into place, and that just feels like when a director has made it essentially. I would almost say that this is better than writing wise than why am I forgetting the other movie's name? Than Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, because you got to assume when you're comparing Tarantino's and you're saying you're number one and you're number two, this is gonna be most of the time those are gonna be the two.
For sure.
The difference is this one, like you said, it's so deliberate and it's such a slow burn. Pulp Fiction's, you know, all over the place, and every scene kind of has exciting moments, or at least something kind of big happens. Whereas in this movie, it's longer, I believe, than Pulp Fiction, and it's just such a slow burn. It's just such an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah. But I think he nails it, and I think that's kind of the best part about it. Is it just like it just hits.
Yeah, and then at the end, when they're cutting the 3 storylines all together, it's like everything's kind of happening at once, and the cuts that he does, the direction and the editing on that's so good.
Yeah. You know,
because that's the moment you have to nail it. You know, when you tell these stories with these intertwining stories, and they're all supposed to be independently just as important as the other. When these characters all finally do meet each other, that's the time to nail it. And if that falls flat, then the whole thing's a bust.
I couldn't have said it by myself. You ready to do some spoilers to talk about the movie itself?
Throw it on, baby.
I mean, we got to start with talking about the beginning of this. You know, open fields. You know, they're coming in, and you know, I think the slow burn really comes in best in here because you realize that everything that Lando's about to do is deliberate.
Oh yeah,
and it just, you know, feels like it's done so well. Everything from, you know, instead of taking the wine, taking the milk instead, and you know, asking the daughters to leave, switching over to English. And then it just all cascades perfectly into place to, you know, create a you know, a moment in which you're like, oh, this guy is someone that's a tactician. He knew that they were harboring them, and he almost knew exactly where they were going to be.
He knew where they were. He knew how many there were. He knew everything the whole time. And it's kind of like we're looking at the nature of evil, right? And it's kind of a look at that, because a lot of times you think these evil people, they're crazy, they're so impulsive. But then you find out true evil sometimes is cool, is calculating, is attractive, you know, is polished. And those are the really scary people. So it's kind of study on the nature of evil where you see, you know, what true evil is. He's so polite and he's nice and he's fun, you know, he's always laughing, but he's always got a plan. And the plan is nefarious. And you know, he takes the glass of milk in that first scene, and then the first time him and Shoshana see each other again at the restaurant, they ask if, like you said, wants champagne. He goes, no, I think I'll have milk, because he knows exactly who Shoshana is. He just has to prove it in his own weird, methodical way.
Well, I think also at that moment, you know, you talk about both the implication of, well, you know, this is someone who Zola, you know, who is kind of like the movie star of the Nazi Reich at this moment, is like, this is the girl, the interest, and this is the movie that they're going to be going into. He can't just like automatically be like, oh, you're the one that got away all those years ago. No, you need to, you know. And then, you know, the whole part of with the strudel, and then making sure there's whipped cream on it, and
making sure there's whipped cream, ordering her a glass of milk just to see how she responds to it. He's like, for the lady, a glass of milk, I think.
Well, it's also the whole idea of, and I think this is, you know, the methodical maniacalness of this. You know, strudel is made with pig lard, with butter. First of all, you know, as a Jew, you can't have pigs. That's number one. And then he gets the whipped cream on there. He puts the milk in there, and you can't mix meat with milk. And so it's one of those things that's like methodical, like trying to see how she reacts, trying to see if she'll break, trying to see if she'll be like, try to explain her way out of it. And then of course she doesn't, because she's kind of the one that ends up getting away, for lack of a better term, in that sense, right? And
you can feel that this doesn't happen very often. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is like a one-off.
Well, because he's so confident that he doesn't try to even shoot her.
Right, because he's maintaining this polite, charismatic, you know, facade that he has. So he's just subtly poking her just to see what he can get out of her. And the tension that builds is insane.
It's great. And then of course you meet the bastards.
Yes,
which are some of
the bastards.
Which is such a fun. They're so fun and delightful.
Oh, they're the best
in the best way.
And it's funny. It's like they're murdering people, but it's like puts a smile on your face, and it's like they do it fun.
He's looking up, and I think Brad Pitt's performance is like somewhat undervalued in this.
It's so good just because of the character itself. It's like this kind of guy. They call him Aldo the Apache. But you can tell he's either like a Midwest guy or he's like you can tell back home he's nothing special, and you can tell it in his accent and things. He's just so down to earth.
He's Smoky Mountain. He's from the Great Smoky Mountains, so that must be like where that's like the South-ish, like Virginia, West Virginia, that kind of area.
And the scene where they're doing the accents because they have to pretend to be German.
Gorlami. No, Italian to be Italian.
Gorlami. Oh, they're Italian. Gorlami. Dominic De Coco.
They're all so great. Eli, and it's like the Band of Bastards is kind of like a really wild who's who. I think this is one of the bigger films that BJ Novak did while shooting The Office. Eli Roth being in this as the Bear Jew.
Eli Roth is great in this as well. He does a really good job of his emotions going from laughing, and then when he starts hitting them with the bat, all of a sudden his mood completely changes, and you can't you can tell that he's angry at the person he's beating to death, but you can almost tell it's killing him a little bit inside as well, or at least that's kind of what I got with his the facial expressions he's making. It's like it's paining him to do it, but he's also getting joy out of it, which is also super interesting because it's like you're putting these normal people right into these situations where you're telling them to murder someone is a good thing, and that completely is the opposite of everything you've been told your whole life. So it's like, how does your psyche deal with, okay, I'm doing the right thing, I should be beating this guy's head in with a bat, but then there's like that little voice in the back of your head that's like, should I be doing that? And I feel like he specifically, Eli Roth did a good job of, without saying anything, just his nuance and just his facial expressions said a lot.
Oh yeah, I mean that whole moving to that whole scene where they're in the encampment and they have the three Nazis and that. But I mean the way that they open up. I mean we've already seen Eli Roth and kind of how he looks, but introducing his character fully.
Tapping the bat.
It's like a classic, it feels like a classic Western kind of vibe, but done so well in this film, because on the other end you have Hugo Stieglitz is an introduction as one that feels more like with a classic voiceover and with his
Is that Fassbender's character?
No, that's Schweiger's character, Til Schweiger.
Oh, okay.
He's the one that kills the 8 Nazi officers.
Oh, yes. The one they break out of prison.
Yeah. Which that's also such a funny French Nouveau kind of way of breaking someone out of prison, where it's just one shot and it just gets even crazier and crazier as everyone kind of the bastards file in, and then they're like, we admire you, and then just you just hear someone walking up and they don't even look, they just no look shoot him as a classic. I
think the line is, goes, we hear you're pretty good at killing Nazis. We want to know if you want to go pro. Basically, every line that Brad Pitt delivers in this movie is perfect.
I don't think he says too. I feel like no one in this movie talks a lot, if that makes sense.
They do a good. I mean, it's pretty much an ensemble cast. There's some, as far as Frederick Zoller, Aldo Rain, Shoshana, and Hans Lando. Those are going to be like the four main characters. But they do a really good job of like Fassbender and the actress who plays Bridget von Hammersmark. They just do such a good job.
Diana
everyone feels so
she's great,
and there's no real main character.
And their German is on point, which is great. You love to see accents done really well. Maybe movies should do that more often when talking about Germans.
They should.
I will refrain from saying anything else.
The scene in the basement.
I mean, it's a classic of a film of a scene. Them going down into the basement. The idea of like, first being like, why would she bring them down to the basement? Because it's empty, and then it ends up not being empty, and then them kind of being stuck there. And then the three officers, the three from the Bastards coming in, kind of trying to get them out of there and trying to making it an extraction mission, and then of course absolutely failing, is one of those that is a classic. And you have part of it where it you kind of wonder if they're going to get away with it, and you almost think they do, but then they don't. And it comes off of one of those tiny details of just like the three versus three. And it's one of those things that I was talking about at the beginning, where it's like it's the small details within this movie of it's the tiniest of details that makes this movie click so much, where it's they almost get away with all of this.
Yeah,
they get away with the accent, and they get away with these high profile people that they're trying to chase after. But no, it's the way that they call a 3 at the end is what gets him. And that's that's the brilliance of the film. That's the absolute brilliance of the film.
Yeah, that basement scene is awesome. And again, the tension, and it's just such a good job of the comedy and the tension, and just it all boiling over. And then even right at the end, when the people come down, like the Bastards come down, pop their head down, it shifts again to almost comedic, even though there was just a massacre in the basement.
And then you have one of the funniest parts, one of the funniest parts, I feel, one-liners at least, where they're like, "Well, just say that you were in a hiking accident." I'm like, that's
and
so
then
dumb.
They do say it, and Christoph Waltz's reaction is it's just that over-the-top laugh, spilling his champagne, just like, because he's toying with these people, and when he sees like he's like, this is the best you guys could come up with? Really? A fucking hiking accident? This actress was in a hiking accident in between movies? Meanwhile, he clearly heard about what happened in the basement. It's not like anything gets by him. So he knows.
He was there. He saw the crime scene.
Yeah, so he knows everything. And it's just the way he toys with characters to his demise. But it's almost like he has to be 100% before he acts on anything. Like he's not gonna.
I would argue that Landa doesn't get punished for what he did. He gets punished for being a Nazi, which you can argue to me is the same thing, but I would argue is two different things.
Well, I guess it just depends on, if you say there's if there's better Nazis or worse Nazis. He suffers the same fate as anyone else the Bastards let go, in that you get a swastika cut onto your forehead, right? So at the end of the day, he gets cleared to go live in America or wherever, and they cut a Nazi on his forehead. So did he get off light? Yeah, comparatively, I guess to what he did.
I feel like you can. Hot take. I feel like it's a very satisfying way of branding someone. I also feel it's a lot easier to get rid of than I think they want to admit.
Right. So have you ever heard the fan theory that Hans Landa, Christoph Waltz's character, is the same character that's in Django?
I have not heard this, but that would make a
Okay,
lot
so
of sense.
in Inglorious Bastards, he's a Jew hunter, right? And that he does it,
Right.
he does such a good job. So then in Django, Christoph Waltz's character, he's just a bounty hunter, which is, for all intents and purposes, the same profession, right?
Sure.
So instead of hunting Jews, you're hunting criminals. And he has in Inglorious Bastards, he has short gray hair the whole time, and in Django, he has this long gray hair that kind of covers his forehead. And they make the argument, he says he was only following orders, so he doesn't care that he's not hunting Jews anymore. He just needs to be hunting someone. And morally, he's ambiguous. He just has a job and he does it. Now, do I believe that? Not really, but it's fun.
I mean, there's the whole timeline issue with that theory, wherein if we're talking that this is still slavery, then then Django takes place in the 1850s.
Yeah, this would be 1945, so that doesn't really work, correct. Does it?
Yeah, that kind of falls through that plan. But it's an interesting theory. I think it kind of speaks to, and the irony being, of course, that Waltz wins an Oscar for both of these performances.
Well, that's the other thing. I think that's where it stems from. It's such strong performances, and almost similar.
Is Christoph Waltz an amazing actor with Tarantino, or is Christoph Waltz an amazing actor who just was really, really effective in this specific type of role, and therefore that's
right, because the roles are similar when you look at them like that.
Yeah,
it's this nice, charismatic guy who really enjoys his job, and his job is murder, basically hunting and murder of humans.
I mean, and again, like, does Landa get punished for doing the things that he did? No, not really. He kind of gets away with it.
Yeah, he just gets punished as any other Nazi would have been, as any other Nazi soldier. Like he was just like he was an infantryman.
So, I think, interestingly, Landa might be kind of like, although he's the villain, he kind of gets off without any true punishment.
Yeah, I mean, they do light Hitler on fire and burn him alive, so I guess the real villain gets his.
Sure,
I guess. I don't, because most of the upper brass get lit on fire and burned alive, right?
Yeah, I think it's
in
Hitler,
order to pull that off, they had to let one guy go.
Who wasn't that high on the food chain, to be fair.
Who, Landa?
Yeah.
Not as far as like the inner workings go, but he was certainly respected, and I feel like he's not as high on the food chain. He's not the minister of propaganda. He's not Adolf Hitler. So as far as who we have to burn alive and kill here, and who's the one person we can let go, I guess they kind of weighed their options, and he probably wasn't aptly punished for what he did.
So did the bastards get away? But the bastards apparently do get away with it. I do love the line at the end, and then I think we do have to talk about Shoshana. Is where Landa's after Aldo Rain kind of kills the person that was with Landa, and Landa's like, what are you doing? You're gonna get court-martial for this, you're gonna get punished for this. And then Landa goes and then Rain goes, punished? No. Chewed out? Yeah. I've been chewed out before. And I'm just like, you know that he's been kind of been reprimanded for being who he is. But I guess, in the end, it doesn't matter. He gets the results. And I think that's
it's a necessary evil. It's a necessary evil. They're like, you don't really fit into what we would call a good soldier. But unfortunately, a good soldier can't do the job that you do.
But, they get the job done. And you got to love it. You got to love it.
It's good. It's really good. As far as technical aspects of the film, the lighting's really, really good.
Sure.
does a really good job of the lighting, and it all serves a purpose. Like all of the a lot of the Nazi scenes, they're just like really well lit, like in the restaurant, and then they show how that is different from like when you're around the bastards and you get dimly lit scenes, like the basement scene, the scenes in the woods and things. It's all dimly lit around the bastards, but then around the Nazis, it's all these bright lights, lit scenes, and then the way that the lighting will lead to serious moments is pretty cool. I'm a big lighting guy. Actually, I didn't get to talk about it, but my favorite thing about the Odyssey was the lighting. So we know our friend Anthony would have loved that.
Anthony would have loved that. Let's talk about Shoshana for a moment, because I feel like she doesn't get her due, because I think her performance is quietly one of the best ones. Like, it's really I feel like good. She's not talked about a lot, but I think it's like one of those. It's like she deserves a lot more praise for the work that she's doing on screen. And her character is also super interesting. You know, you have the Jewish girl who definitely, like, you know, that this is not their aunt and uncle, her aunt and uncle. This is definitely like someone that just harbored her essentially, and then gave her a new passport and gave her a new name because whoever the niece was must have died. And then was like, yeah, here, you can take over the movie theater, and then falls in love with an African French guy, and
a projectionist.
I think, you know, yeah. And I think that's kind of one, like, the whole, like, this whole subplot of these two people finding themselves in this, like, kind of tragic situation, and then having to kind of deal with the fact that, you know, the Nazis are getting awfully close to them, and figuring out how to navigate it, then realizing we have a chance to kind of ruin, you know, the whole plan in this one night, is kind of like, you know, one of the bigger parts of this movie. That's like, you know, they talk about this quite a lot. You know, they have this big debate of, should we not? Is this kind of, you know, is this worth the risk that we've been doing, because we can die ourselves, you know, and what that kind of means. All the while, you know, Friedrich Zoller is kind of flirting with Shoshana. And, you know, I think you were saying this before, but I think that's one of my favorite parts of Daniel Bru's performance, is like this flip. It's like he acts like the, you know, the puppy dog, the like super like kind, and, you know, he only did what he had to do to survive, and you know, but he didn't really want to go to war. And then when he doesn't get what he wants, it's that flip. It's a very interesting, it's like a classic, like, you know, I think today, especially in movies like Obsession, we talk about this like nice guy trope that is starting to appear in media. And I feel like he's one of the original the nice guy trope characters that I think
for sure.
The inspiration.
Oh yeah, it's not his fault. He was stuck in that bell tower. He had to kill all those people. He had no choice. He's a really nice guy. He doesn't want to be recognized by his peers out in public, even though he's uber famous, and you can tell on the inside he does really love it. And then at the end, you see his true colors. The most interesting thing about Shoshana for me is the entire film, her character does this balancing act of how poorly she can treat the Nazis without going over the line.
Yeah.
Because we're living in this, you know, world in Europe where you see a Nazi, it's yes, sir, no, sir, what can I do for you, this, that, and the other thing. And she's, I mean, outside the bastards, in the polite society, one of the few characters who kind of gives it back to them. And it's this fine line she walks of how disrespectful can she be before, you know, raising too much attention to herself. And it's interesting because she's really the only one that gets away with it. So it's fun to watch.
And yet she should be the one technically that should be the most scared, most terrified.
Right. She's exactly. But she's not, because it's almost like you've already done the worst to me. You know, I watched you murder my family in front of my eyes. What else can you really take from me?
I mean, I was going to take another kind of trope, which is like, look, I cheated death once at this point. You know, I'm on borrowed time. Let me just kind of live how I really want to live.
Yep.
and just kind of deal with it that way. Which I mean, the thing that makes the most sense is like Shoshana is just someone who doesn't care anymore. Now here's a question then for you, because they go into the movie, they have the projection, her, um her and Marcel, they both want to shoot the film, and then burn the theater to the ground with celluloid and everything. And as she switches the film and then she kills Soda, she has this like weird moment of like going up to him. And I think for, you know, I wonder if that is the intention of compassion, which I don't really think, or the one that I'm increasingly thinking, which is I think she's ready to die.
Yeah, I think it's the latter. I think it's that second one. I think she almost, when she put the plan together, she fully expected, I'm locking myself in with these people and no one's going anywhere. And I've lived my life, and this is what matters now. What matters is making sure what happened to me doesn't happen to anybody else.
For sure.
So I think she's accepted her fate.
Yeah. No, I think that makes the most sense, because that's, I think, something that I keep thinking about is like, because if Shoshana had lived, right, let's kind of think about this logically. If she had lived and she'd escaped, one or two things happens. She either makes it safe to someone else before the Nazis get her, because like the Nazis are not going to like just go away overnight. Right?
It's not, right. Just because you chop off the head doesn't mean the body stops moving. There's so many machinations in place. It's going to take a minute for this to stop.
But I think, it's clear, like, how Landa says it, right? It's like, we see that the war is ending. This is going to make it go faster. But I don't think it's going to go away. So I think, either way, she's going to a concentration camp.
Yeah, and I think she's just done running. Punished. She's just done running. She's been running her whole life. And I just think she's done running. She's ready to make her stand.
So, and I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it brings up the issue that they talk about again. It's like this moral gray area, where it's like, it's not your traditional World War II film where it's good guys versus bad guys meeting each other on the battlefield. And, you might shoot someone. You're not going to torture them. You're not going to, to revel in watching them die. But with Shoshana and with the Bastards, they're enjoying it. And it's not just, okay, we're going to kill you. We're going to torture you. And so it's this moral gray area. It's like, okay, bad guys die, good. But it's like, there's definitely a little bit of, like the torture and just like the tactics that they use, burning people alive, things like that. It brings up a moral gray area. Like, who are the good guys here? Because the people that we're rooting for seem to be pretty evil. And then the bad guys, who's this Hans Lando, is this nice, he doesn't seem, you know what he's doing is evil, but if you just met him, he doesn't seem overly evil.
Yeah. I mean,
and it's just funny how he did that, because there's a clear good guy and a clear bad guy. But the tactics that the good guys use sometimes, make you question who's really the bad guy here.
I mean, that whole, idea of, do you think everyone in that movie theater is implicitly evil because they're watching this movie? Because it's clearly propaganda? Like, I don't know if I have a true answer to that, right?
Right, exactly.
It's high society Germany, right? Yep. It's high society Nazi Germany, but like, are all these people, like, do they all
deserve to be burned alive?
Yeah. And then, of course, the Bastards come in and blow themselves up, which is like, you could have just left the dynamite on the chairs and left to go to the bathroom.
I know,
like,
straps into their leg.
Truly, you could have, saved yourselves and just like left the dynamite there without it blowing up, but like, no, they have to die, I guess. I don't 100% understand why that needs to be the case. But
so
like, from a tactical perspective,
and because they had no idea of the other plan that's going on at the other time, right? So they have their own plan going on. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to them, there's this whole other plan. I think if they had been privy to the other plan, they might not have strapped bombs to their ankles.
Yeah, but even if they did, what's the whole like? Because they get out, but they would have also then noticed that the doors should have been bolted in place at some point, right? Like
Yeah.
this whole like I think this is the one part of the movie to me, and it's the climax, which makes it so much more frustrating. That's like
Okay.
logically just like falls apart, you know, like and not from like a logical what's happening level, but like from a logical, you know, what's the logic of why is something happening here? Because in every other part of this film, it's so methodical and it's so thought out, and at the very end, it
Yeah.
gets super sloppy.
Well, again, that's when you're trying to tie 3 distinct storylines all together at the same time, and sometimes it gets a little messy. I think from the Bastards' point of view, this was their opportunity, and this is the culmination of everything they worked for, and they're not going to trust just leaving a bomb under a chair and hoping someone doesn't find it. They're going to watch this and see this thing through.
I guess.
Now, what this movie does well and is awesome for someone like you and me, it shows like really the power that cinema itself holds.
Oh yeah.
Right? It's not just for entertainment. It can be used for, propaganda. It's like how cinema can change someone's mind, which I'm sure you, as a filmmaker yourself, is palpable for you. And then not even that, on a second whole nother level, because it's like we have this propaganda movie, right? And this is the one that's going to push Germany to win the war. And so it shows the power of film and filmmaking. But then also they talk about how film is super flammable. And film is actually a plot device to burn down the theater itself. So not only is the movie powerful, but what the movie's made with, the film itself, is powerful. And I thought it was almost like a love letter to cinema. Like, here's what it can do. It's not just.
I mean, I think if
watching.
Tarantino as a film lover, a lover of cinema, both as the medium but also as the art, I think this is his biggest homage and his biggest, his biggest love letter to cinema as an art form in both medium. And I think
this is what our media can do. Like, look how powerful cinema is.
Now, I do have one question for you regarding Landa, because we talked about him a lot and how smart he is, but I think this is the one thing that trips me up every time.
All right,
at the beginning of the movie, he talks about he loves his moniker, how he loves his nickname, how he loves what he's called. And then at the end of the movie, when he basically is trying to get his terms, he goes on this whole thing about talking about what it means that he doesn't like the name that he's been given. And I think the question that I come away is, do you think he loves his name or he hates his name? Because I don't think he changes his mind. He's not a person that usually does this. Do you think he's lying? And I mean, he is, but if so, when is he lying?
I don't think he's lying per se. I think it just shows the character's moral ambiguity. Like,
Interesting.
He was assigned a job, and he did that job to the best of his abilities. Doesn't matter what you called him, doesn't matter what people thought about him. That was his job, and he did his job to the best that he could. So when Hitler gets lit on fire, Goebbels gets lit on fire, he's getting extradited to America. That's not his job anymore. So I don't, he liked the title when it was people saying you're doing a good job. Now that job doesn't exist anymore, so what's he need the title for? He doesn't care about the title.
No,
he cares about doing his duty.
Job? I guess.
So I guess once that job no longer exists, the title means nothing to him. And I think it's more just on the character's ambiguity, and again on what true evil is, where it means so little to you. Like hunting these people down, knowing full well that they're getting sent to a camp or going to be murdered in front of their family. It just means so little to him. And it's just like the nature of evil and his moral ambiguity.
Fascinating. It's a very interesting take. I don't
I
know if I
can't.
agree with it or not, but like
Right. Well,
it's
because
an
or
interesting
he could
take.
just be straight up lying. But if I'm trying to rationalize it and make it make sense in the context of what we were told, that's really the only explanation I got.
Yeah, like there's an inkling to me that there's something deeper here. You know what I mean? Because everything that Londo ever says or does is deliberate.
Yes,
And if
absolutely.
and so if that's, but I then cannot with good conscience look at that like what you just said and say, yeah, that's a deliberate, way of acting is to show your ambiguity through that. Right? Like it feels like there's a reason why he changes his tune and something that I just don't 100% know. And I try to figure it out and it just isn't there.
Yeah.
And but it's an interesting kind of thought process of, how do we do this? How does it work?
He's just
You
such an
know?
interesting character because in this movie of all these mega stars and all these characters that give these lauded performances,
Yeah.
every time he's on screen, he steals the scene. And it doesn't really
Yep.
matter who he's with. And it's like you're watching all these people, Daniel Bruhl, like Brad Pitt, they're giving these incredible performances. But when Christoph Waltz is on the screen,
He steals it.
it's almost like everything sucks onto him and you're just hanging on every word.
For sure. I mean, I think the movie kind of forces you to do that on the one hand, but I
Yeah.
think also it's just
The performance
so
helps.
well.
Yeah, the
The
performance
performance
helps.
for sure helps. I think it's one of the, I mean, I would call it one of the best performances of the 20th century so far.
Absolutely. It's, him, Javier Bardem from No Country for Old Men. As far as villains, I mean, especially for speaking villains here, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's gonna be tough to find a better villain just because he's so terrifying, but he has a smile on his face. He's like giggling and has a smile, but you're terrified of the man. And it's just to be able to pull that off is very impressive.
For sure.
Whereas Javier Bardem, he's a true psychopath. He's got a flat face. He's not going to show too much emotion, and that in itself is terrifying because you never really know what he's thinking. This is a completely different type of terrifying psychopath. This is a terrifying psychopath who's going to smile and act like he's your best friend, but the whole time he's just plotting. So it's just they're probably my two favorite villains of the 20th century, and they're just portrayed so differently. And then both actors,
that's why they're your favorites, because they're just so different that you can't,
because they're so unique. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, of course, that comes down to writing. Of course, you gotta give props to Tarantino for the magnificent write. I mean, again, this is.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he is a writer more than anything else, and he kind of directs because he can't see anyone else.
Right. Every once in a while, he'll let someone direct one of the movies he wrote.
Yeah.
But what's the one?
From Dusk Till Dawn, I think is one of them.
Dusk Till Dawn is one because he wrote that. But the one that he had Ridley Scott's brother direct, True Romance.
Interesting. Yeah.
But if he's gonna pass it off to someone, it has to be a director that he respects and he knows is gonna bring that vision to life.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. I mean, overall, I think this is a movie that I think will go down in the history books, right? I think.
Absolutely.
What is it? I think next year, or the year after, AFI every 10 years does like 100, like does their top like 100 movies of all time, and they always kind of update it. And I can for sure, I don't know the last time this was on there.
Where it landed on the list. As the years go on, it's only going to go up.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the thing is like, I don't believe this one landed on the list. No, it did not. But I can for sure see it kind of getting there as time goes on, because I think the more that we watch it, the more that we love it. I think the last time this list came out was what, 2012. So, and there was like no, and the newest movie I think was like, was it Lord of the Rings? Might have been Lord of the Rings was the newest movie on that list. So
right,
I think,
because you have to let it marinate.
Yeah.
You have to see how it has a cultural impact that lasts more than 2 years,
For sure.
Which this film definitely does.
And then, of course, this film was shot out here in Babelsberg. There's a street named after Tarantino. They're redoing the street out here with like a bunch of like stones to commemorate movies that were shot in this town, and that's one of them. That was one of the first ones to be put down, right? Kind of as to honor the way that these movies are, being the movies that are being made here. So I think it just will go up from here, and I think it's going to be one of those films that we're going to talk about for a really, really long time.
Yeah, I mean it just has like the themes are still pertinent today. The acting is so strong, and then technically, it's such a well-made movie that there's just not a lot of holes you can punch in it.
100%.
There's just not.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No. That's it. It's just there's not a lot to say. Like the problems we have are so minor.
Oh yeah.
And it's just I really don't have much bad to say about it.
Well,
spoiler alert.
Bad to say.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you know what time it is, Jack.
It's that time. It's that time.
To rate that movie.
Nailed it.
I love the hand.
Nailed it.
Absolute 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5, 100 out of 100, and 10 out of 10 bastards. How many bastards are in this? Was it 12 bastards? I don't know. But all the bastards out of all the bastards.
I love it all so much.
Yeah. 4 out of 4 Nazi high commanders dead.
Yep.
How about you? Where do you?
Let's see. So Quentin Tarantino has, written and directed 10 films, and it is number 1 on my list.
I agree. Yeah. Now, do you put Kill Bill as 2 separate films?
Yeah, and I have Kill Bill at 4, and I have Kill Bill 2 at 8. But as far as the movie itself, 5 stars, 10 out of 10. I have
100.
No issues with really anything. It's one of my top 5 favorite films of all time.
I love it.
And I don't think it's going anywhere because every time I watch it, I love it. I just, even when you know it's going to happen, the tension is still palpable.
As always.
You can feel it. You can literally feel it as you're watching. You're just like, oh, man. And it takes a lot to do that. So it's a 10 out of 10. It's a 5 out of 5. And it is number 1 on my Quentin Tarantino ranked list.
I couldn't agree more.
Can you guess number 3? Because we talked to that, and Bastards is 1, Pulp Fiction's 2. What is number 3, do you think?
I have 3 picks.
No, because I already told you Kill Bill is 4, so you get 2 picks. You can get either this or that.
Oh, I don't think it's Jackie Brown. I think it's either like Reservoir Dogs or Hateful Eight.
It's Reservoir Dogs.
The third one that I was going to put in there is Django.
I love the Hateful Eight, though. I feel like that one's so underrated. I
agree. Yeah.
The dialogue in that movie is just, and it's a chamber piece,
Yeah.
So I love a good chamber piece, and the dialogue's so good. I feel like that one goes a little under the radar because it is kind of long too, but I love that movie.
That being said, if you guys want to watch this live, we do record these live for people to watch with us. We are on Patreon. There are still spots for free left. You come into our Discord, you come join us live, and you get to talk with us. Next week, it is Spider-Man, A Brand New Day. I will not be there, but it's going to be Jack and I believe at least Justin. So hopefully they can do it justice in my absence. But folks, thanks so much for watching. This has been another episode of the Capcom Podcast. I'm Cameron.
Lieutenant Aldo Spanks.
And we'll see you next week for Spider-Man. Bye!